You are not born the way others are born. You are engineered. Your father serves as one of the closest advisors to the emperor himself, which means your existence is not an accident of affection or desire. It is a calculation, a deliberate investment in the future of an empire that has been crushing galaxies beneath its heel for thousands of years. From the moment you draw your first breath, one purpose has already been assigned to you. Become the strongest, not one of the strongest, not among the strongest. There is no runner-up, there is no second place. The title belongs to whoever can take it and hold it against everything the universe throws at them, and you are going to be that thing. The training begins before you can walk steadily. An older warrior puts a weapon in your hands when other children your age are still learning to speak. The pain starts immediately and never really stops. It just becomes background noise, a constant low hum underneath everything else that your body eventually learns to file under irrelevant. You are beaten. You lose. You are corrected. You get up. You lose again. You get up again. This is not cruelty. This is curriculum. The Empire doesn't have time for warriors who break. It needs warriors who absorb everything and come back harder for it. That is what you are being made into, one session at a time, one fracture at a time, one scar at a time. You understand early that this is a privilege. Most children on this world are trained hard. You are trained with intent. There's a difference. Intent means someone decided you mattered. Intent means the resources of the most powerful civilization in the known galaxy are being aimed directly at you. You do not waste that. You cannot afford to waste that. The Empire paid for you. You owe it everything in return. The Purge. The Emperor dies in the night, not in battle, not in glory, murdered, stabbed in the back by someone who stood beside him, someone who ate at the same table, someone the Emperor trusted with the kind of proximity that only the most loyal are ever granted. The betrayer vanishes before the body is cold, and the Empire, the vast galaxy-spanning machine that has never once questioned its own invincibility, does not know what to do. You know what to do. Weakness has always been the true enemy, not the alien fleets that scatter when they see your banner, not the coalition of frightened species that form specifically because your people terrify them. Those are external threats. External threats can be crushed. The weakness that lives inside your own walls is the thing that kills empires. You have always known this. The Emperor taught you this and then proved it by dying. So you instigate the Purge. Not as a reaction, as a prescription. You stand before what remains of the council and you make the argument that history will either vindicate or damn, and you make it without flinching. The weak must be removed, not reformed, not retrained, removed. Every Viltrumite who cannot meet the standard will be eliminated by those who can. Half the population by the time the dust settles. Half, an entire half of your species killed by the other half in the streets of a world that was once the jewel of the galaxy. You watch it happen. You do not look away. Looking away would be the first act of weakness you have ever permitted yourself, and you are not starting now. When one of the council members objects, voice cracking with the kind of moral hesitation that has no place in this room, you kill him yourself, cleanly, immediately, to make clear that the deliberation is over. What emerges from the ash is what you always knew was possible. A species so refined, so distilled down to its most lethal essence, that nothing in the universe will ever threaten it again. You are appointed Grand Regent. The title is supposed to be temporary. You are supposed to hold the throne until the Emperor's true heir is found. You file that information away and you get to work. What the title costs Grand Regent. The words carry weight that most beings could not lift. Every decision about every planet in every system that flies the Empire's banner passes through you. Every military campaign, every diplomatic overture, every execution, every resource allocation, every warrior who gets deployed, and every warrior who doesn't come back. All of it. You carry all of it, all of the time, with no one to share the weight. Because sharing the weight is weakness, and weakness is what you just spent the last generation cutting out of your people like a surgeon removes infected tissue. You keep the old Emperor's skull, not as a trophy, as a reminder. You place it where you can see it every time you sit in the chair that was supposed to be his, and you speak to it. Not because you believe the dead can hear, because the habit of accounting for your decisions to something greater than yourself is the only thing that keeps a leader honest. The skull cannot be flattered. It cannot be bribed. It cannot be impressed by posturing. It only sits there and reminds you what happens to emperors who trust the wrong people. You run the empire for thousands of years, literally thousands, long enough to watch entire species rise and collapse, long enough to remember the faces of warriors who died before most current civilizations existed, long enough that the search for the true heir stops feeling urgent, stops feeling relevant, stops feeling like anything other than a formality from a different era. The empire is yours. It has been yours longer than some planets have been inhabited. You did not take it by blood. You took it by outlasting everyone who might have challenged you. That should count for something. You tell yourself it counts for something. The virus. It comes from the sky disguised as a rock. An asteroid, fragments of it, breaking apart in the atmosphere above your home world and releasing a mist so fine and so targeted that the first warriors who breathe it don't even know anything is wrong. Not at first. The symptoms come later. Weakness, then pain, then death. Fast and comprehensive and almost perfectly designed to find every Viltrumite it touches and simply stop them from existing. It is a weapon. You understand this immediately. Someone built this. Someone studied your species with the kind of patient, methodical hatred that takes decades to accumulate, and then built something that fits your biology like a key fits a lock. The betrayer. The one who murdered the emperor and vanished. He had all the time in the world, and he used it to engineer an extinction. The quarantine goes up immediately. You control the information. You cannot let enemies know how badly you are bleeding. The strongest species in the galaxy cannot afford to look wounded because wounded things get finished off. So you lock it down. You watch the numbers fall. Fewer than 50 survivors. Fewer than 50 pure-blooded warriors out of a population that once measured in the hundreds of thousands. 50. You stand in the silence of a world that sounds wrong. Too quiet, too still. The empire still exists on paper, still controls territories across multiple systems, but the body that was supposed to enforce all of that is almost gone. You are almost gone, and for the first time in thousands of years, sitting in the chair with the skull watching you, you feel something you have no previous experience of. You feel afraid. You bury it immediately. But it was there, deposed. You have held the title of Grand Regent for longer than most empires have existed. You built the doctrine. You enforced it. You led your people through a civil war, through a near-extinction event, through thousands of years of expansion and consolidation. You carried the skull of the dead emperor and you answered to it, and you kept your people alive when a bioweapon designed specifically for them nearly finished the job the Civil War started. And now a traitor's son, a half-blood raised on a primitive world by people who will all be dead in a century, is being handed the throne you have occupied since before his grandfather was born. You go to stop it quietly. You go to the moon where the traitor has settled with his human wife and you try to finish what should have been finished years ago. You are so close. But the warriors who were supposed to be loyal, the warriors you led and protected and kept alive, they turn on you. They have heard the bloodline. They have heard who the true heir is. And thousands of years of conditioning toward the legitimacy of Argal's line is apparently stronger than thousands of years of loyalty to you. He spares your life, the traitor's son, standing in a place he was never supposed to reach, leading a people he was raised to betray, spares your life. He calls it mercy. He calls it the beginning of a new way. He sentences you to exile. Exile. You, Grand Regent of the Viltrum Empire, exiled by a man who grew up on a planet you were sent to destroy. You accept the sentence. Not because you have submitted, because you are calculating. You have thousands of years of practice at patience and you are not finished yet. The army you built alone. You find a world of short-lived people, insectoid and fragile, who have never encountered anything like you. They worship the dead emperor's son because he came to them once and did some small acts of heroism that their tiny lifespans have mythologized into something enormous. You correct that impression quickly. You take the planet, you take the people, and you use the biology you've been given, the same compatible genetics that made the human world valuable, to do in a compressed time frame what would normally take centuries. You breed, not with sentiment, not with anything resembling what the traitor felt for his wife. You are manufacturing soldiers. Your children are born fast, aged fast, trained fast. In the years it takes the coalition to even locate you, you have produced an army. The greatest warrior alive finds you first, sent by the coalition to finish you. The fight lasts days, not hours. Days. You lose an eye. You lose pieces of yourself that take weeks to regenerate. It is the closest anything has come to killing you in thousands of years. When it ends, you are broken open and bleeding on the surface of a planet that smells like dirt and insect. But you are standing. He is not. You take his hide and you wear it as a cloak, because even your near death is a message. Even at the edge of being finished, you are the last thing standing. You gather your children, hundreds of them, all of them carrying Viltrumite blood. You train them in the void between stars, this wandering army without a home, and you wait for the moment when the coalition stops looking in the right place long enough for you to move. The final war. You come back. Of course you come back. Exile was never a sentence, it was a delay. You come back with an army built from nothing but time and biology, and the absolute refusal to accept that the story ends with you sitting on the sideline while a traitor's grandson tries to reform the most powerful civilization the universe has ever produced. You crash into the planets that shelter them. You move through the coalition's forces the way a fire moves through dry grass. Your children fight beside you, half-bloods who carry enough of your blood to be genuinely dangerous, and for a moment, looking at them, you feel something you have not felt since before the virus. You feel like the Empire is real again. The traitor meets you first. Thousands of years old, carrying the Emperor's bloodline in his veins, and he still cannot beat you. You break him open. You take what he has left. He does not die cleanly or quickly, but he does die. And in dying, he earns something you did not expect to give him. A measure of respect. He came at you knowing what you were, and he came anyway. That is almost enough to be admirable. Almost. But the son, the young one, the one raised by humans on a planet that shouldn't matter and yet somehow keeps producing the only things in the universe that can slow you down. He does not stop. He comes at you broken, bleeding, losing, and he keeps coming. Again and again. And the fight moves outward, away from the planet, away from the civilizations watching from a safe distance, into the corona of the nearest star. The heat is intense enough to strip the durability from things that should not have durability limits. Your body, the body that was engineered from birth to be the most perfect weapon your species ever produced, begins to fail. Not from the hits, from the star itself, the plasma eating through your cells faster than they can repair, and still you fight. Because stopping is the first act of weakness you will have ever permitted yourself, and you are not starting now. He hits you one final time, and the star takes the rest. What you were. You were not a villain, not in your own accounting. You were the only one who never flinched, the only one who looked at what your people needed, no matter how brutal the prescription, and had the will to administer it. The purge, the quarantine, the exile, the army. Every decision you made was made for the Empire. Not for yourself, not for comfort or power or the satisfaction of cruelty, though you understand why those who suffered under you could not see the difference. Every decision was made because something had to be, and you were the only one willing to do it. The traitor chose a planet over his people. His son chose peace over dominance. And somewhere in the galaxy, the Empire continues on without you, softer than it was, more willing to compromise than it ever should have been. Drifting towards something that looks more like what your enemies wanted than what your people built themselves into. Maybe they will be fine. Maybe peace will hold. Maybe a species that purged its weakness and survived a bioweapon and crossed half the universe on a diet of will and contempt can also survive becoming something gentle. Maybe. But you were the Grand Regent. You were the last true voice of what your people were before sentiment started softening the edges. You carried the skull. You answered to it every day. You never stopped trying. You never allowed the fear to last longer than a breath. You fought in a star and let it take you rather than stop. You were the strongest, right to the very end. That was always the whole point.